Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. 9 Jamaicans test positive for COVID-19 at World Athletics Under-20 Champs in Kenya. 9 members of the Jamaica's successful delegation to the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Kenya have tested positive for COVID-19. A brief statement from the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association on Monday morning did not state how many of the 9 were athletes and how many were officials. However, it said 4 persons tested positive for the virus earlier in the week, while 5 persons returned positive results in the final set of tests that were done before the delegation was due to leave the East African country en route to Jamaica on Monday. While no information is immediately available on which individuals returned positive tests from the coronavirus, at least 3 athletes pulled out of their events after making the finals. There was no information offered on why they were withdrawn from competition. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association said all 9 persons are asymptomatic and are in isolation. Those persons will not be able to leave until September 2nd. The Jamaica team medical staff has remained with the 9 persons, and they will be accompanied home by senior staff including the medical personnel who has also remained with the group, stated the J3A. The main body of athletes and staff are now on their way home, the statement added. Jamaica had a successful showing at the championships, winning 11 medals, 3 gold, 3 silver and 2 bronze, including a World Under-20 record in the women's 4x100 meter finals. Businessman shot dead in Ocho Rios. Police are probing the shooting death of a businessman in Ocho Rios, St. Ann on Saturday night. The deceased has been identified as Orville Grant of Mansfield Way in Ocho Rios. Grant, who was popularly known as Bash, owned a restaurant in the popular town. Reports from the Ocho Rios police are that about 10:30 p.m., Grant was standing along the roadway when he was pounced upon by unknown assailants who shot him several times. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. No motive has been established for the killing at this time. Indicom probes fatal police shooting of man off Walton Park Road. The Independent Commission of Investigations Indicom says it has begun investigations into last week's fatal shooting of a man along Delamere Avenue off Walton Park Road in St. Andrew by the police. The deceased has been identified as 21-year-old Kelvin DePass. The police reported that a police team was on an assignment at the specific address in search of a man allegedly armed with a weapon. It is further alleged that the man fired at the police, who then returned gunfire in the direction of the man. The man was transported to the Kingston Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead, Indicom stated. Indicom further stated that the incident scene was processed and the weapon of the officers were boxed and sealed for testing. A Taurus 9mm pistol, which was reported as being in the possession of the deceased, was also processed, and the hands of the deceased were swabbed for gunshot residue. Initial accounts of the incident were provided to Indicom investigators by the law enforcement officer. The officers were subsequently issued with Section 21 notices to furnish a statement and attend the offices of Indicom to be interviewed in relation to the incident, Indicom said. An initial account received by the Commission are recognized as preliminary information and will undergo the requisite investigative and forensic examination. The assistance of the public is also important, and persons are therefore reminded to contact the Commission and share any information that will be useful in ongoing investigations, the investigative body stated. Don't use our children for experiments, Al Miller urges. Director of the National Transformation Program, NTP, Reverend Al Miller is warning Jamaicans against what he says amounts to the volunteering our children for inoculation against the SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, then as the government yesterday entered into 2 days of a drive to vaccinate children 12 to 18. The Jamaican government on August 12 announced that children 12 years and older will be prioritized for the first batch of approximately 200,000 vials of vaccine, which arrived in the island 5 days later. The delivery marked the first of 3 tranches of the total of 600,000 doses gifted to the country by the United Government. Health Minister Dr. Tufton emphasizes that the Pfizer jabs are safe to use in children and adolescents, said the movement was in furthering the considerations for the resumption of face-to-face schooling in September, and also to ensure that children slated for final exams are able to return to classes. The vaccination bliss for children will conclude on August 24. But Reverend Al Miller, in a statement, called for deeper analysis. I am mindful that our leaders are under intense international pressure, bound by some unwise treaties and conventions signed, Reverend Al Miller stated. Allow experiment on adults only. Do not volunteer our children for experiments just because it's internationally requested or required. Because we are bound by an international agreement, he said, further while calling on the authorities to say the possible long-term and short-term effects of the jabs on children. Speaking with reporters yesterday, Reverend Almila stated, "We need more information because this is the children's future, and we keep talking about these vaccines, but these vaccines cannot be compared to rubella shots and others. Children on a whole different ball game for adults. Adults can make their choices. We make choices for them, and we have to be 10 times as careful of how we affect their future. We don't have enough information. These things have not been proven. At the beginning, they told us this would have solved the problem, but now they are agreeing that this is an experimental phase. If it is experimental, then it cannot be forced. So therefore, give full information and let those who want to take part in the experiment choose to do so. You cannot make participation in an experiment compulsory, and certainly don't volunteer our children into experimental phase, worse when it is not absolutely necessary, because there are alternative protocols," he added. The National Transformation Program, known as Fresh Start Jamaica, is a civil society-led, value-based socio-economic program with the state as a major partner, also with the church and the private sector. The clergyman assessment did not go down well with Professor of Public Health at the University of the West Indies, Dr. Peter. There is no basis for what the Reverend Almila has said. The Pfizer vaccine has been given to hundreds of millions of people, and we have a pretty good idea of any of the rate adverse effects, and it is proven to be a very safe and effective vaccine in preventing COVID-19, especially severe COVID. With the Delta variant, we are seeing that the virus is more readily transmitted and is creating a massive surge in COVID-19 cases in Jamaica. And we are also seeing that many more younger adults, teenagers, and children are being affected by the Delta variant, and it is causing COVID in a wide cross-section of ages, Professor Peter stated. If we are going to try and get the children back to school after not being able to do face-to-face classes for over 8 months, then it makes sense to get the children vaccinated, especially those who have exams. They need to get back to school and benefit from the education and be protected. We know that young adults and teenagers, even though they do not get very ill with the virus causing COVID, they can transmit it to their parents, their grandparents, their friends, and others. So they do play a role in the transmission and contributing to the surge, so it makes perfect sense to get them vaccinated, he added. Professor Peter argued too that clinical trials involving children have shown that both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines are safe and effective. I can't understand the basis for Reverend Miller's questioning of giving the vaccines, and it is really good to see that many of the church leaders have come out and explicitly stated their support for the vaccination program, which is our best hope to really control COVID and restore some semblance of normality, the public expert stated. 879 new COVID cases, 4 more deaths in Jamaica. Jamaica recorded 879 new COVID-19 cases and 14 deaths on Sunday, bringing the infection total to 62,712 and virus death toll to 1,402. The Ministry of Health and Wellness reported that the new cases comprised of 509 females and 370 males with ages ranging from 2 days to 96 years. The cases were recorded in Kingston and St. Andrew, 145, Manchester 121, St. James and Westmoreland 109 each, St. Catherine 105, St. Elizabeth 60, Clarendon 56, Hanover 52, Trelawney 48, St. Thomas 42, St. Anne 17, St. Mary 13, and Portland 2. The latest deceased comprised of a 57-year-old female from St. Anne, a 68-year-old male from St. Anne, a 67-year-old female from St. Anne, a 68-year-old female from Westmoreland, a 71-year-old female from Westmoreland, a 75-year-old female from Westmoreland, an 83-year-old female from Westmoreland, a 72-year-old male from St. Elizabeth, a 39-year-old female from St. Elizabeth, a 77-year-old male from St. Mary, a 77-year-old female from Kingston and St. Andrew, an 82-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew, an 86-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew, and a 66-year-old female from Kingston and St. Andrew. Jamaica has 13,140 active cases after 66 people recovered from the virus, bringing the total number of recoveries to 47,787. Currently, 607 people are hospitalized, 83 of which are severely ill, while 60 are critically ill and 125 are moderately ill. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.